I have the honor of interviewing Rudi Riekstins. We met at a conference a few years ago, and I have followed and learned so much from him. He is a leader of leaders called upon by business owners, leaders, and personalities who crave deeper connection with their team and mission. From hungry startup entrepreneurs to the world's most powerful CEOs, Rudi has primed thousands of people to achieve unprecedented success in their business and personal lives by integrating a highly specialized, mindful approach to business that Rudi has perfected over 2 decades of leadership training. He's been featured alongside Tony Robbins as a Thrive Global Top 5 coach. Rudi is a world renowned for his leadership, training, and coaching. Rudi is also the co host of the Empowered Life podcast, which he educates leaders and individuals on how to tap into their personal power, lock deep within, and align themselves with purpose, joy, success, and self mastery. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation with Rudi. I've got a question for you. Who's the person you're being? Are you satisfied? It's okay. This is a judge-free zone, and it's exactly why I started the show. Welcome to Be the Person, a podcast for the brave and the curious who are ready to explore who they are fully created to be. I'm your host, Annie Randall, the adventurous one leading this investigative journey of transformation. By delving into topics and asking unexpected questions, we will discover the keys for unlocking our true potential and being our best selves today. You may be surprised by what you find when you let go of fear in order to discover the answers of becoming the person you were made to be. Welcome to Be the Person podcast. I cannot wait for you to hear from today's guest. He is somebody that has definitely had a big impact on my life, and I know that you're going to fall in love with him when you hear from him and all of his work. Welcome, Rudi, to the podcast.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I've heard you talk several times, and each time I really, really learned a lot from you. In fact, to prep for this, I went back to all my old notes from Rudi Talks, because we met back at Embrace Your Ambition, and you really share a lot of wisdom. And I'm just curious, did you know that you always wanted to do speaking, coaching, podcasting? You do it all, and you do it really well at the highest level. Was that something that you felt called to, or you knew that you were going to do?
I'm going to answer your question roundabout because I always knew that I was meant for more, and I knew that I was here to create an impact. I just didn't necessarily understand how. And for the longest time, I ran away from the word coach. I had people 15, 20 years ago, before coaching was mainstream, saying to me, "Would you be my life coach? Would you coach me? Would you?" And I would be like, "No, I'm not a coach. I don't want to be a coach," because I didn't understand what the coaching meant and how you could create an impact by mentoring, supporting somebody in that fashion. And so I shied away from it for the longest time. But the thing I really want to share with your audience, which I think has the most power and potential to serve the listener, is that every single moment that is happening in your life is preparing you for the person that you get to become. And in every single moment, every trial, tribulation, success, failing forward, in every moment, I was being prepared and I was being qualified so that when I was ready, I would be ready to start serving and supporting. And the qualification came through my experiences, through my traumas, through my healings, through the modalities that I sought out to heal my heart and my life, how I built multiple companies, exited, and all the things that I did were preparing me, because today, the work that I do and the teaching and the serving and the supporting, I always laugh because I'm so uniquely qualified to the people that I do, because every time someone comes to me, I'm almost like magnetizing people that have experienced experiences that I've had. And I'm very much ready to turn around and serve and support. And so if there's somebody that's listening to this and they have a dream or a goal or desire to be a speaker or to be a coach, or They want to have a servant heart. They want to do something and create an impact out in the world. And they feel like they're not ready or they're running. I want you to know you are ready. You're beautifully ready. You're ready right where you stand because every experience that you've ever had has prepared you, qualified you to be the person that you are right now. And that when the moment arises for you to be able to step forward and serve in any capacity that's required, and you do it, you're now fulfilling what you came here to do. And I think that's the beauty of life.
Wow. So good. And I see you just living that out. Everywhere you go, I see you serving, you add value. I mean, you just did it in the very first question of this podcast. And I told my audience they were going to love you. And I think they're going to see that as we go through just in how you answer your questions. But one of the things you really had an impact for me when I heard you speak, and you talk about an experience that when you were 26 and you had this goal of being a millionaire and you had made it, you looked around and you saw the condo, the car, the company, all of the things that this world would say is successful. Yet you didn't necessarily um, feel successful until you started looking at those clues. And when I heard you say that, I guess I was maybe in the same type of place of, I've created companies, I've done different things, but I wouldn't have necessarily said, you know what, I'm successful. Can you share a little bit about your experience with that and kind of what happened and what did you do after that?
I have to give some backstory to that because at 26 years old, I was sitting in a loft apartment. I had millions in the bank. I owned multiple companies. And at the time I felt like I should be the man. I should feel like I have arrived. And instead I felt like a broken little boy. And I remember that moment so vividly because I sat in my living room and I was going to sit down and eat my favorite meal and drink a really nice bottle of wine. And I was going to celebrate me. I had just bought this condo and I'd furnished it in 2 days. And it was such an exhilarating time for me in my life because I had come from very little and I had started to amount and achieve so many things. But when I sat down, I realized that even though I had done all of what would normally make you feel successful, I still felt like I was unworthy, unlovable, that there was nothing worth celebrating in me. And I felt like a dunce. And I had an experience when I was, 6.5, 7 years old going into school and a teacher called me stupid, labeled me stupid and made me sit in a chair that she called the dunce's chair. And that moment, it was a defining moment for me because from that moment forward, I viewed myself as somebody who's not good enough and not worthy. Your opening question was beautiful because you asked me, did I always know? And I didn't answer the question from my vantage point because I was wanting to serve your audience, but I did know. At 16 years old, I knew I was going to be a speaker. At 16 years old, I saw the motivational speaker take a stage and I knew that was going to be me one day. But the very next thought was, you're not good enough. You're not worthy. Who's ever going to listen to you? And how are you ever going to get to where you want to go? And so I had that feeling of like, I'm just never going to achieve what I want to. And so I then set out to make money because I believed if I had money, people would respect me. If I had money, people would listen to me. People would listen to me because I had achieved so many accolades. Then I could be the servant person I wanted to be. And so I always knew I wanted to serve. I just didn't know, how do you get people to listen? How do you create the platform? And so in my limited mind at that time, I believed it was through creating abundance, through creating wealth, through doing something meaningful. And the thing that I really have taken from my story and over the years and years and years of sharing the story, I'm always left with that feeling of, you know, what if I had started serving right where I was at 16 and not feeling like I was unworthy and not good enough and that I didn't have the luxury to take up space and that I shouldn't breathe too loud and I shouldn't raise my hand and I shouldn't play with the cool kid. What if I just was me right there in that moment? And what if I started doing that at 18 or 19 or 20 or 25? But when I was 26 years old, sitting in that room and realized I still felt like the boy in the dancer's chair, that was a defining moment because I realized, hang on a minute, like, I've lived my whole life feeling like the underdog. I've lived my whole life feeling like I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy. What if I am? What if I am worthy, right as I am, without all the things that I thought would fill me? because none of them did. None of them made me feel anything other than the dogs sitting on that little chair. And so that was when I started stacking success. That's when I started looking at evidence and I started asking myself really pointed questions. I was like, are you stupid? Is it possible that you are worthy? What have you done that you could celebrate as successes? And then I started writing out these questions and filling these statements of what defined me where I was in that moment, not the way I had felt my entire life. And that's so beautiful because it gave me the confidence and the courage to say, you know what, maybe I don't have to achieve all these things to be able to get there. And here's the thing I want your audience to know is at 26 was when I realized I still felt like a dunce, even though I was pouring money into the things that I thought would make me feel whole. But all my relationships were broken. I had terrible girlfriends and even worse friends. I had no self-esteem. I was working 7 days a week, 18, 20-hour days. I had no quality of life. And, that's not sustainable by any means. But it took me 10 more years to dismantle all of how I felt, all of who I was before I started being who I am today. And I think people need to hear that because we think that it's a quick fix. You have a moment, a realization, and you're like, wow, what if I am worthy? And then what? All of a sudden you're meant to be worthy? Well, no, I had to stack evidence. I had to look, I had to do the work. And what I teach is doing the work every day. You've got to ask the questions every day. You've got to prime your mind for success every day. You've got to be prepared to self-evaluate. What did I do? Where am I going? How can I be better? And that is the part of the process that supports people in achieving what it is that they want. And that process doesn't have to take you 10 years because, you can find people that have done it and then emulate what they've done and do it in a short amount of time. But it took me 10 years to figure it out by myself over and over and over again. And every single time I have the privilege of taking a stage, I would say it's probably the same with you. I mean, we've spoken on stage, I think 2, maybe even 3 times. And every time we walk out on a stage, the thought that I'm thinking is, man, what if I did this when I was 20? What if I started doing this when I was 25? What if I did this when I was 30? Why did I wait until 36? And how many more people could I have supported? And so I hope your audience, rather than listening to me talk about my life, I hope that you're thinking about you and your life. Where could you start being you right now? Where could you start showing up as you right now? And where could you start asking questions about yourself and about your life that's going to move you in a direction where you can find and stack evidence that you are worthy to be the person that can get to be?
One of the things I really appreciate you is the questions that you ask. Thank you for sharing your story and for being vulnerable to just tell us that backstory. I appreciate that. And when we were in Texas together, I told you a little bit about that. And you challenged me then to go home and just write all of the ways that I was successful. Just take out a blank page and for 2 weeks, just start writing. And not that they had to be big things, but just things that over my lifetime I had seen success. And that was such a powerful exercise for me because, I think we look at our today, and I'm a person that always is tempted to say it's not good enough or I want more or when I achieve this. And instead of doing that, of really just doing what you're saying, say, like, right now, who can I serve and what can I do for people right where I'm at? And that success and journaling really helped me want to start to do that more and more. So thank you. I appreciate that from you.
Oh, thank you so much. I think people need to really, understand what it is that you were talking about and then why is the work so important. When we take out a piece of paper, we ask a pointed question, and then we start to answer the question. We're moving the mind from being unconscious and running an unconscious program and dumping unconscious thoughts, which produce unconscious chemicals that are going into your body. And you're responding to them, and it makes you snap back into being conscious. Over the age of 35, 95% of everybody is unconscious. I want you to hear what I just said, but I want to say it better so we fully grasp it. 95% of everything that you do every single day is unconscious action, behavior, thoughts, and we're doing it every day. And less than 5% of us is us being physically aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it, or choosing and deciding in that moment to do it. Everything else is an automated program. The brain is always creating efficiencies based on how have we responded to situations in the past. If a situation comes up now and it's similar, we just respond and react that way. But the moment you ask a question, a powerful question, why am I feeling this way? Really good question. Then you start to write out the journaling act of why am I feeling this way? Where did it come from? When was the last time I felt this way? Those are questions that bring you back into being conscious. The program goes quiet, you take over, and now you can think about what it is that you're doing. And if you think about what you're doing, you can make very different decisions. So this is the action of really paying attention to the mind, paying attention to why am I showing up the way that I'm showing up? When you write out a list of everything that you've ever done that you can celebrate yourself for being successful in, what you're doing is you're creating new neurological pathways in your brain that is, hey, every time Anne wakes up, she's awesome. She's a rock star. She's crushing life. She's doing so well. Look at the accolades. Look at what she's doing. Look at, what she's achieved. And then when an opportunity arises later in your day to do anything, your brain's going to now say, which default pattern do we take? Do we take the one where we felt unworthy, or do we take the new one where we're stacking that we're pretty awesome or we do pretty awesome things? And so it's vitally important that in the beginning of your day, you prime and prepare yourself for who you want to be, so that when you meet whatever's coming in your day, you are going to be emotionally and physically and energetically aligned for that outcome.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. Are there other journal prompts? I love that one. Are there other ones that you like to start the day with, or that you like to give people as favorites to do?
It really depends on where a person is and what it is that they're dealing with. And so I will, rotate these all the time based on what's going on for me. And so, this morning I woke up with anxiety and I woke up with a little bit of stress. I didn't have a great night's sleep. I've got a big thing that's happening in my world. And so it's taking a lot of energy. And, we always have that like, oh, what if it doesn't work? Or what if it goes wrong? Or what if I lose this? And so we allow these emotions to sometimes come in. And I'm really good at being able to know emotion in the front and then turn it into something else and to refocus and reshift. But when I woke up this morning, I had a lot of that emotion that was sitting. And so my journaling prompts this morning were, are you safe? And then I would look around my office. And so I write the question down, right now, am I safe? And so I look around my office and I'm like, no, I am very safe. Is everything going to be okay? And everything's going to be okay. Where in my life right now can I find things to be grateful for and things that I can feel confident in, that when I do the work, I get to reap the reward? And so then I start making these lists, and then I start to write out statements of, I am worthy. Why am I worthy? I am whole. I am complete. And so then I start to shift the chemical makeup of what's going into my body by stacking evidence that my life is really good and that things work out and that I don't have to worry. And, if I'm continuing to feel the stress, for me, it was a quick exercise and went away. But if I continued to feel the stress, I would start another journaling practice where I would write down, what is it that I'm feeling and why? Where do I ever remember feeling that emotion in the past? If I can remember that that emotion of anxiety tied to that project came up somewhere else in another project, then I'm aware that it's not this project that's causing the anxiety. It's every time I've ever felt anxious in my life before on that topic is being chemically dumped into my body. I think I need to send the audience a little more by saying that every time you think a thought, the thought produces an emotion. The emotion is then put into your body in the form of a chemical. And that chemical is to update your body on how you are meant to react or respond to what you've been thinking about. So when you feel anxiety, anxiety isn't real. Anxiety is simply just a chemical interpretation of a thought that you've had. And so if you're like, oh, I hope I don't lose that deal, or I hope that person doesn't, go away, or oh, I hope that guy's not going to be mad at me, whatever the thought is, that then produces a chemical. That chemical goes into your body. We could process that as shame, guilt, resentment, anxiety. And that emotion, whatever we label it as, is simply just the interpretation. So it tells your body, hey, you're worried about something, you're stressing about something, you should probably stop doing that. And that's the benefit of the emotion. Problem is that so many people feel emotion in their body that they think the emotion is theirs. They identify with the emotion. And so they then identify with they are that emotion. And that's what we hear people say, oh, I'm depressed, I am anxious. And you're not, you're none of those things. You're just experiencing the thought and then the aftermath of the emotion. And so a great question is, why am I feeling this way? And if you prompt that feeling, that is to physically stop a chemical dump of going into your body. If you can name an emotion, are you feeling anxious, nervous, scared? You stop the chemical dump of going into your body by dumping it from your brain into your body by up to 80%. And the moment you reduce the chemical dump, you're no longer going into stress, fear, fight, or flight. Now you could be logical and have reason and inspiration and intuition and all your faculties. And so you could turn around and ask, why am I feeling that way? Well, I'm really worried about this thing at work. Okay. Is it true that that's even going to happen? Well, no. Is it possible that it could be the best outcome? Yes. What is more likely? Well, it's more likely that it's going to work out. So where else in your life have you had a situation where you were worried and it worked out? Oh, well, here, 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 here. Now you're no longer stressed because you've told your brain, hey, let's stop producing the nervous chemical and let's start being more excited or more eager. And then you've neutralized it. And that's the power of it. But that was just if we're having a negative emotion, we wanted to create a shift or a change. But the number one thing I teach people in the mornings is, that how you choose to wake up every single day and what it is that you do intentionally versus reactionary is going to have profound shifts or changes in your life. Right now in the coaching world, you're going to hear people talk about it all the time. Oh, you need to be intentional and don't be reactionary. But so many people don't understand what that means when we hear about intentional versus reactionary. There isn't a thing in the world that I do that is not intentional. And every time I'm getting onto a podcast, I'm going to read a book. I'm spending time with my wife, my kids. I'm getting on a call with a client. I'm going to walk out on a stage. I've already curated what an experience is going to feel like. And I've done that in my mind before I've walked into the room, before I've taken the microphone, before I've had the meeting. And I hold the feeling of what will it feel like at the end of that event, whatever the event is. And then I celebrate the success of the end of that event going the way I want it to go. So now when I walk into a meeting or I walk out on stage or I have a date, I'm 100% present in that moment. And I have the vantage point of what is it that's serving me in that moment. And so every morning when I wake up, I curate, how do I want my day to go? How do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? And then every meeting that I have coming up that day, for 10, 20 seconds, I go to each meeting and I just imagine, how do I want that to end? How do I want that to feel? When I hang up from this podcast, I've already had the feeling this morning sitting in my office in my home and celebrated. Yes, that was amazing. Wow, that felt so good. I loved it. And we had such a great time. And we caught up at the beginning and we caught up at the end. And so I've got all of the emotion of what does that feel like? So when I log into the actual recording of the podcast today, I'm not nervous or anxious or worried about what I'm going to say because that is all irrelevant. I've already achieved the successful results of what I'm wanting. And so I teach people to curate your morning for success. And you can literally prime your brain. Every single day, your brain is trying to remember who were you in the first 20 minutes of the day. It goes from a neutral faculty to all of a sudden remembering your past. And from the past, it's now dumping chemicals in to remind you of how you used to feel. And that's why today feels like yesterday, which feels like the day before, which feels like the day before that. And so our lives stay the same. But when we wake up in the morning and we decide, I'm going to plan today intentionally, carefully, calculatedly, who do I want to be? How do I want to feel today? And we spend a few minutes thinking and feeling, very important, thinking and feeling, who do we want to be? We're not taking back that default of the brain. The 95% unconscious you falls away and you become the conscious, you become the creator. And then you start to produce the chemical emotions in your body of the events you created in your mind, even though you never physically did the things. But your brain doesn't have the ability to process, is that real? Is that the past? Is that, the future? It just feels and processes it in real time. And your body literally physically reacts to that information. And so what's happening is you're creating a new state of being. We can hear people say, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. The only way to be different is to literally think and feel something very different at the very beginning of your day.
Do you typically, that's so good and so powerful. Of just so many like nuggets of wisdom there, I think. As a busy mom and entrepreneur, eating healthy can sometimes be hard, but Thrive Market is one of the places I love to shop because they make it super simple, deliver right to your house. They have snacks, staples, everything that you need to be healthy at very competitive pricing. They are offering our listeners 40% off your first order. That link is in the show notes. Check it out today. When you do that, because I think, well, one, I'm very type A, like driven, and I think a lot of the audience is like that. I know that you're probably like that as well. When you're doing this in the morning, because I think the tendency is just to go and to do. And so when you do this, do you do it typically for the whole day? Do you like take meeting by meeting and you actually visualize and feel and succeed in those? Or do you do it like one at a time before you're going into like, let's say this podcast? Because that's something that wouldn't come natural for me. And so I'm guessing it wouldn't come natural for other people. So just a little more coaching on the how to.
It's, it's a good question because it's not natural for anyone. And here's why. You wake up today the same way you woke up yesterday. You're going to wake up tomorrow the same way you woke up today, the day before, the day before that, and every other day before that, because you are not waking up. You are a program of how you've woken up. You are conditioned based on who you used to be. In the first 20 minutes of the day, your brain is trying to remember who you were. I said that a moment ago. And what I mean by that is the brain is 100% calm, neutral, void of any emotion, and it is ready to be programmed. And then you start to look around your room, you look around your life, and your brain then remembers, oh, I remember who I am. Oh, look at my husband or my wife lying next to me, the dog, the kids, the house, the life, the cell phone. We open the email, we see some emails. Somebody didn't do something they were supposed to do. We get frustrated, anxious, nervous, pissed off, whatever the thought is. And then all of a sudden, thought produces a feeling goes into the body, and the body starts to say, got it. That's who I want to be today. What people don't realize is that the first 20 minutes of your day, literally from the minute you open your eyeballs, the timer starts, you have 20 minutes where your brain is the most susceptible to change and influence. And if you can manipulate how you feel in the first 20 minutes of your day, you will be a very different person today. But if you don't do it and you just wake up, you grab your coffee, get in the shower, grab your clothes, go to the gym, you're already programmed by the time you get to the gym to be who you were yesterday. And so you're never going to change. Circumstance will change around you, but you won't change. I'm going to give you an example. I work with some high performers, not all my clients, but the majority of my clients are really successful high performers. They've achieved hundreds of millions or billions, and they're very unhappy when I meet them. And they're unhappy because at one point in time, they were like, Rudy, sitting in a dunce's chair, didn't feel good enough, didn't feel worthy. They felt that if they were to be successful and create wealth, they would feel a certain way. They created that success, they created that wealth. They still don't feel that way. They can buy everything they want and they're still unhappy. And they realize money cannot buy you happiness. There's a thing in the world that they can buy that's going to fill that void. And now they're stuck. And so when they wake up in the morning, they're reminded, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. And so there's nothing they can do that day that's going to create a shift, going to create a change, only because they wake up and they do everything that they did the day before, hoping for a different result. That's when they, sell the company, force the trophy partner, stop calling the kids back, find new friends, buy sports cars, whatever the thing is that they're trying to do to feel something different. And all of those things aren't going to change because they are the one that needs to create the change. But if you can wake up in the very beginning of your day and very intentionally prime your day, and this is science, we're talking about the very first 20 minutes of the day. If you can curate a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling, and a new way of being, your brain is going to set a dominant pin, like a stake, like you're putting a stake in the sand saying, oh, that's how I want to feel today. So let me give you an example. If you woke up today and you checked your bank account, you checked your work email, and you put on Fox News or CNN, in that moment, right there and then, you're receiving stimulation from your bank account and you're thinking of thought on that, and thoughts producing a feeling. When you turn on the news, you're getting stimulation from whatever's happening in the news and you're processing emotion based on that. You look at your partner, you look at your bedroom, you look at your life, you look at the same fridge, the same coffee machine, the same everything. And all of a sudden, all of the memories of yesterday and the day before that starts to flood your body. And your brain goes, oh, got it. I remember who I am. And so you think and feel and act exactly the same way that you did yesterday. The difference is yesterday isn't being repeated because new opportunities are coming to you, new experiences are coming to you. You are just reacting with exactly the same framework that you reacted the day before and the day before that. And that's why your life hasn't changed. But the moment you wake up and you say, you know what, I'm going to curate how I want to feel. I now have learned that the first 20 minutes, your brain is the most susceptible to change. What if I wake up and for the first 20 minutes, I feel joy, or I feel excitement, or I feel eagerness, or I feel successful, or I feel love? Then in those 20 minutes, you can curate that feeling. Your brain's going to say, got it. And we think and feel from love, from joy, from success. And you now become love, joy, and success. So as your day unfolds, whatever transpires in your day, you are no longer responding the way you would have yesterday. You're now responding from an elevated state of being with an elevated emotional state because your brain literally set that as the state of how you're going to be today. So you'll be more optimistic, you'll be more loving, you'll be more joyful, and you'll start making more loving, more joyful, more abundant, whatever the emotion was you curated in the morning, you'll make decisions from that vantage. So if somebody woke up this morning and they turned on the news and they heard about the latest earthquake, the latest ship crash, the latest forest fires, and they're feeling like gloom and doom and everything's going terrible. And somebody comes to them later that day and says, hey man, I've got an investment opportunity for you and I'd love for you to join. They're going to go to, oh, gloom and doom and fear and, well, we shouldn't do that. And we can't control the unexpected. And they're going to buckle it under the pressure. The same person, if they were to wake up and curate positivity and success and joy, fulfillment and freedom and emotional states in their body, the brain sets that as how do they want to feel today. And then later when somebody says, hey man, I've got this incredible opportunity, their brain is going to respond from a different part of the brain where they're more courageous, they're more confident, they're ready to take risks. And they're going to say like, man, actually, you know what? That sounds incredible. And then they will do the research, they'll do their due diligence, but they will be more primed to take the steps because their brain's going to be a very different brain. It's literally functioning and firing in a very different way. And far too many people have and understand the value in that. Now you asked a good question and I'm giving you a really long answer only because it's very, very complex. The work is easy, but I need to give you enough evidence so that you actually hear it and turn around and do something with what I'm hearing. If you wake up and you curate joy, fulfillment, freedom in the very first 20 minutes of your day, you decide that's how you want to be today, your brain's going to respond very differently. And I do that every single day. It is the first thing I do every single day is I release any emotion that I might be feeling that I might have picked up for the first few minutes of the day. I then curate in an emotional state with a very unique practice that I have of how to physically change my body, how to change my mind, how to change everything around me to be who I want to be, because I don't want to stay who I was. And then when I'm finished that process, I will look at my calendar and what are the key things I have in the day. Let's say it's 4 or 5 events. Then I will send a quick like image snapshot of emotion on the end result of that to the end of that. So today I had 5 really important things on my calendar. I will go into my mind, literally 20, 30, 40 seconds for each one after I've already primed in the first 20 minutes how I want to feel. I imagine my podcast recording with you. How do I want it to go? What do I want to feel? How do I want you to feel? How do I want the audience to feel? And then I send that energy ahead of me. I literally send it to the end of our meeting as if I'm pre-paving the road. And when I pre-pave the road with that emotion, now my brain, my body, everything knows exactly what it is I'm wanting to do. Later in my day, if my phone rings and it's you and I see your number come up on my phone and I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting a call. Well, I couldn't have planned for that. And in that moment, I could just pause, take the call, say, could you give me 1 second, set an intention, get back on the call, and then I'm ready to keep going. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so well. In fact, I start my day with quiet time typically every day as well, but I don't curate intention like you're talking about, and that's something I'm going to add in. Like I think that's a huge takeaway from this conversation because your example was so powerful of the investment of how it could go either way. And I think when we start to curate and look at what position do we want to come from, we can come from fear and failure, or we can come from like joy and success. And I think people feel that energy all around us. So I love those examples. Thank you.
Imagine if you want to write a book and your goal is to be a best-selling author, and you woke up this morning and you just read about the forest fires, you see your bank account that's not thriving and whatever's going on in your life. And then later in the day, you've got to sit down to start your putting some notes down of what you want to write. You're going to sit down and feel like you're not successful. It's not going to work. What's the energy of what that's going to feel like? But if you woke up and curated, I can do anything. I accept enough evidence of all the times I've been successful. We do successful things every single day. And we don't really look at them because they seem so insignificant in the moment. But if we step back and look at, man, how can I be proud of myself? What did I do today that I could be proud of? Oh man, I sent, 100 emails. I spoke on stage in front of, however many people. I had this call. I spoke to that company. I signed a new client. Oh, I have a great relationship with my kids. And they love me. Like success, success, success. And now all of a sudden you could turn around and say, wow, I am actually really successful, because success is what am I doing in the moment that I've planned to do, and I've done it, and I've done it really well. And when we do that and we stack enough evidence on that, when it's time to sit down and do something else, all of a sudden the brain's saying, do it. Like every time you touch it, it's gold. Just keep doing it. And the failures don't feel like failures anymore. They just feel like more opportunities for you to keep taking more action.
Yeah. So good. So good. I appreciate that. I want to go back and ask about the 26-year-old Rudy. You said it was a moment that you really realized that you were back in the 7-year-old brain of like not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy. And I think that I know that that has been true in my own life. I can imagine for other people listening, that may be true for them as well. And you said it took, this 10-year period that you really had to put in and do the work. Can you talk to us a little bit about what did some of that work look like? How did you go from, that not feeling good enough to feeling good enough and doing all of these things that you do now?
It is a constant state of evolution. And I think that that's the best way to answer that question, because the work never ends. My job, I believe, is to remind people of the divinity that is them, the divinity that they came here to be, and that they could have, be, do, and achieve absolutely anything and everything. But we can never have, be, and do if we don't physically start with ourselves first. We don't do the work first. And so, I teach the process of priming, because you are priming your brain to be who you want to be, or you're allowing the outside world to prime you to be who it is that you're. And I think that we have the power to be whatever we want to be, but only if we internally start. And so my priming, process of preparing for who it is that I want to be from 26, I've been a deeply spiritual person my whole life. I've been a self-development junkie my entire life. And so I don't want to take away from all the incredible things that I was doing and books I was reading when I was 16, 17, 18, 19. But at 26 years old was when I started to really take accountability for how I felt, for what I was doing, for how I was showing up. And so if I had a business partner that was taking money from me, or if I had a girlfriend who was cheating on me in the past, I would blame them. If they the problem, I'd replace them with someone else, and the problems would continue. But from 26 years old onwards was when I started to do the inner work. And that's where I started saying, where can I take accountability? How am I showing up? What am I doing that I could do differently that could create a different result? A girlfriend cheated on me and I wanted to hate all women. I was so mad, so angry. And then I realized, man, what kind of guy was I? How was I showing up in that relationship that she would want to cheat on me? Instead of saying, what kind of girl is she that she would do that? And so there's a very powerful shift in being able to ask those questions. You'll notice a lot of the work I'm referring to ties to actually asking yourself really powerful questions. I read a research study recently done with 100 self-made billionaires, and they went and asked, them what is their morning routine, what do they do, how do they build their wealth, and a whole list of questions that were all uniquely answered. But there was one common theme in every single one of them. And that is that every single self-made billionaire journal. Not everyone woke up early. Everybody drank this. Everybody did this workout. Nope. Every single one of them journaled. Journaling is the act of sitting with yourself. It's the act of asking yourself questions. It's that looking inward and being a high performance version of you. How was my day today? How can I be better at my day? What did I do that I'm proud of today? Where did I fail and where could I improve on what I did? Those are really powerful questions for anybody who's looking to do some self-reflection. And then in every moment, I started taking accountability for how I was showing up, what I was doing, what I wasn't doing, and how I could be better at what it was that I was doing. And that is called the work because the work is hard. No one wants to sit and journal. No one wants to sit and self-reflect. Nobody wants to, extend the pain and the struggle. But when we do that, we get an advantage point. I started the episode today saying that every single moment that's ever transpired in everyone's life is perfectly preparing them for who they get to become. Only when you learn what it is that you were meant to learn from having that experience. And that experience can only gain value when you turn around and look back at the experience and have a different vantage point. And so that's what the work really is. Today, my work is very different than it was 26 years ago because I've stacked a ton of evidence. I'm living a really full, beautiful, abundant life. But the work for me today is sitting in a cold plunge twice a day, 40 degrees for 3 to 5 minutes at a time. It's working out every single day to move my body. It's meditating every single day when I wake up in the morning. I will curate my emotional state. I meditate anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours in the morning. And I'm going to tell you now, every single person I meet says to me, I don't have an hour. I don't have 2 hours. I don't have 20 minutes. And I'm going to tell you now, I was one of those people that didn't have that. And today I have nothing but time because I've changed how I show up. I've changed what I do. I've shifted my priorities and my life has never been more full. I've never been more abundant. I've never made more money. I've never had more free time. I've never been more in love with myself, with my wife, with my family. And that beautiful life can only come from doing a lot of the hard work. And so to anyone listening, where could you start taking accountability for your thoughts, for your feelings, for your actions, for what's working, for what's not working? Could you stack and look every single day for the next 3 to 4 weeks where you wake up and you write out all the things that you've ever done that you could be proud of yourself for? Shift the brain from you're not good enough to, man, look at how successful you already are. And then where could you start taking action towards being the person that you want to be? And if you could, which I remind you, you absolutely can, could you wake up tomorrow morning and curate an emotional state, prime your day for success so that you can be the most powerful and abundant version of you? Because when you do the work, I'm going to tell you, it becomes the most beautiful life. And that's what my life has turned into. And I speak from experience. I've also taken this into people's lives, in businesses all over the world, corporations everywhere. And the results are profound. And they are like that every single time. People's lives change because when you change how somebody thinks, you change how they feel. When you change how you feel, you're going to change the next thought. And when you change the thoughts and the feelings, you change all human behavior. And there's the secret formula to life.
Wow, I know that you have made me want to change what I do in the morning. In fact, in February, I'm a big monthly goal person. And so in February, I really have struggled with meditation, but I really knew it was something that I needed to dive into. So February, I set this intention and goal of like, I'm going to do this in the morning. And you're right, like it's hard. It doesn't come just like, oh my gosh, I'm a great meditator, at the end of the month. But I saw the change of just becoming more intentional, slowing down, and I love that. So I think just hearing you talk has made me set another 30-day goal of really thinking about, okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to make sure my journal is there, doing the journal, like curating the intention and taking it the next step further for the next 30 days and just see what that leads to. I'm excited about that.
I have a program that is called priming, where I teach people how to curate the first 20 minutes of your day. And if you know and understand how are you going to show up in the first 20 minutes, what are the very specific steps that you have to take, and then you follow those steps, and you did that for 66 days, you would truly, and I say this with so much love, you would write me thank you letters that sound like love letters because you would say, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. I love my life. I can't believe the magic that's happening. My world is transforming. These things are just falling into place. I feel like I'm taking a ride on the river. I feel like I'm going with the flow. I feel like life is easy. Life should always have felt this way. Because when you can shift how you feel, it creates these profound shifts in every area of your life. Something we haven't spoken about in the podcast today that I want to just touch on is that, you have a mental body where you think your thoughts, but you also have your physical body, which is the body that is around you that you touch and feel. But you also, in addition to that, have a third body, and that is your energetic body. And every single time you have a thought produces a feeling. Thoughts and feelings update your body and they physically update your energetic body. Now, why I'm talking about this is when you have a thought, the thought goes into the body as a chemical. The chemical literally changes every single cell in your body to vibrate faster or to vibrate slower. And that is they're manipulating and changing the energetic body that wraps around you. Your physical body could be 5 feet, 6 feet, 6.5 feet, whatever your size or stature. And the moment you have a thought, that is changing. I am tired. I am sick. Your body gets tired. Your body gets, the cells vibrated tired, but they vibrated sick. Or you wake up and you say, I am abundant. I am joyful. I am expansive. I am free. I am whole. I am worthy. Your body starts to vibrate at those feelings. That then energetically updates your energetic body. Energetic body extends 15 feet past you. Every time you walk into a room, the 15 feet around you is interacting with the rest of the world around you. When we talk about how do you magnetize experiences to you, how do you go into the flow? It's when your energy starts to physically interact with the energy of the rest of the universe. Now, let me be very clear. Every single thing in the entire universe is comprised of atoms. They're just electrons, neurons, protons. They're moving around each other. And the difference between you, me, the walls, the floor, and everything else is the number of atoms and the frequency with which they vibrate. And so if you go into a place in your mind where you curate an emotional state and elevates physiology, your physical body to be joy, full and freedom, whatever the emotion is, you are now updating that energetic body around you. And it becomes a magnet that draws similar experiences to you. It also changes how your brain views all the evidence around you to focus in on only the things that are reinforcing that you should stay that way. So the more you feel that way, the more you see the evidence of being that way, the more things that come to you that way. And that's where you fall into the flow. That's how you could all of a sudden start to feel like, man, I'm just taking a ride on the river. Life is so good. Life is joyful. Life is abundant. Life is free because you've, tapped into what is that feeling of joy, fulfillment, and freedom.
So good. When you talk about that, how would we get the training that you're talking about? Because I think if we did that every morning, like you said, 66 days, like I want to write you that thank you note. How would we get that?
I will send you the link to the program for priming, and it's about resetting your mind so that you reset the life that you're living right now. And it's a really simple program that you can buy and download. It's 8 videos, less than 2 hours to watch. Comes with journal, meditations, but it teaches you the act of how it is you should show up, and it gives you enough of the science to tell you what it is that you should be doing, and so that you have enough evidence as to why you should do it. People know you should eat healthy, but not everybody eats healthy. People know, well, French fries aren't good for you, but then they'll go and eat French fries. And so it's not enough to know something is or isn't good for you, that you should or you shouldn't do it. You need to understand, how is it going to impact you? How is it going to create change? And only if you understand what's in it for you are you going to do the work. I've never met a person that says to me, man, I really want to wake up, 20 minutes earlier and do this thing. I'm not asking you to wake up early. I'm just asking that whatever you do in the first 20 minutes of your day sets you up to be the person you can be. And so that program, Reset Your Mind, Reset Your Life, which is priming for success, is going to give you every single step of exactly how you can live that joyful and abundant life. And so I'll be more than happy to drop it into the show notes.
Awesome. I can't wait to do it and share it. I know other people will definitely want to do that as well. So I appreciate that. When you're talking about the energy all around you, is will you feel energy when somebody comes in the room, or if you walk in a room and somebody's fighting and you could feel that energy there? Is that the energy that you're talking about that kind of precedes us?
Have you ever been sitting in a bar having drinks with maybe your girlfriends? I want you to go back to, college, or maybe you're in your 20s, and you're just having a good time. You're not there to talk to any guys. You're just there to hang out with your girlfriends. And then all of a sudden you get that feeling of like, man, feel like there's a creep sitting in the bar, like checking us out. You haven't seen him, but you can feel him. Now,
Yeah.
for anyone that's not watching and they were listening, I want you to know that Anne right now is nodding. Yes, yes, I 100% know that feeling. And I always use that because, we usually get a laugh when we say it, although that's not even a laughing matter because it's not a joke. When you feel like you're sitting somewhere and you feel someone slimy there, or there's a creep there, what you're doing is you're energetically picking up what they're thinking about, what their intent is about you. And that feels slimy because they don't have a positive, association to what they are wanting to have with you or to experience. And so you're feeling something that tells you, hey, the energy that's coming to you is not in alignment with you or where you are or what you want. And that's where the disconnect comes from. If there's a guy sitting in the audience listening and he's never had that experience, well, have you ever gone to a car dealership and you just met someone? They look good, sound good, the vehicles, everything around you look good, but you just didn't like or trust the person. No reason to tell you that you shouldn't, except you just feel you need to get away from this person as fast as you can. That is you picking up on somebody else's intent. Not a good person wants to take advantage of you, or they don't like or trust themselves. So you don't like or trust them because you're picking up on that nervous, negative energy. And because of the energy we're picking up and understanding information, we're receiving information all day long through the energy that's around us. We just don't always know what it is or why. I tell a story of how somebody that I know went to visit their sister, and instead of sleeping in the guest room, they were woken in the middle of the night and asked to swap places and to go and sleep in the bed with their sister because they wanted to watch TV in the living room and they didn't want to wake them. And so the person moved over and got into bed with her sister, and all of a sudden started feeling anxious, nervous, anxiety, wanted to throw up. She just didn't understand what was going on. She felt like she was having a panic attack. And then she realized, oh my gosh, it was her brother-in-law's energy that was in the bed. She literally climbed into the bed that he had been lying in for 3 or 4 hours. He couldn't sleep. He woke her in the middle of the night and said, hey, I can't sleep. I want to watch TV. Can you please sleep there so I don't wake you, or keep you awake? And when she got into the room, she all of a sudden felt his energy. That energy was his energy that literally stayed behind, and she literally sat in his energy. And so as she lay there, she started to feel the shift in her body of the stress, of the anxiety, of the worry. And most people, if they aren't attuned to it, they think that's them. They're going to think like, oh, I'm feeling anxious, I'm nervous, I'm having a panic attack. Whereas in most instances, we're none of those things. We're just experiencing that, and we get to ask ourselves, why? Where is that coming from and how could we change it? And to identify that's not me, that's him. It's powerful because it instantly creates that shift where you sever that emotional connection between what you were thinking or feeling to what you thought was yours a moment before.
So powerful. I love when you ask questions and think about things because it really is different and it gets me to see how I could ask things differently. So I really appreciate that. Rudy, I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you are so busy. I wish I could keep talking to you for like 2 more hours. But as we wrap up, I know a question you always ask on your podcast is what is your favorite book? Or maybe there's a few of them. Can you give us that? Because I would love to hear about that.
I do love that question so much because I'm always looking for a good book. And in every book, there's always a story that somebody went through 10 years or 20 years to learn, and you can learn it in a very short amount of time. And so, I have a number of books, and I'm going to mention to you three if I can, because I think there's three really, really powerful books that will shift people's ways of being. One book is called Dying to Be Me by Anita Wajani. And it is a beautiful story of a woman who is literally dying and then dies of cancer and comes back. And as she comes back, it's a journey of healing. And it was an instantaneous healing because she brought the knowingness of the thoughts produce the feelings that can make you sick. And so it's a beautiful way to understand the power that lies within each person. Um, I also think The Surrender Experiment was a book that profoundly changed my life by Michael Singer. And that is a book where, you get to let go of how you think your life needs to be so that you can be in the flow of where you need to go. And we're reminded that on the journey of life, we're always being prepared for who we get to become and where we're going. And that we don't have to be so fixated on what we think it needs to be, that there's a bigger picture and that we just have to show up in every moment. And so that was a beautiful book. Um, Third one for anyone who loves science and data, and that is The Attention Experiment by Lynn McTaggart. And that is the science behind every single thought and how when you think a thought, it carries the power to influence everything around you. And so an example of that would be if you took a plant in your home and you connected it to the highest EKG equipment in the world and no sensor, and you had the thought, I want to cut the plant, I want to burn the plant would react as if it was having a panic attack. Even though it doesn't have a heart, doesn't have a heartbeat, would register the same heartbeat, panic attack. Then you say, no, I love you. I won't cut you. I won't hurt you. And it will slowly, same way a heart rate would, come back down to neutral. And then if you took two plants and separated them and you cut one plant, like a leaf off of a plant, the other plant would react regardless of how far away it is. And that is because single thoughts and single intentions carry power, even though they're not necessarily in the same proximity. Truly powerful work, but it really just speaks into the value of who we are as human beings and how we can live in this world, but better understand who we are and how we show up as powerful version of us.
So good. I haven't read any of those books, so I'm excited to read all three. What is the best way as we wrap up? Because I know the audience is going to want to connect and want to hear more from you. What's the best way to do that?
I just want to say thank you so much for the honor and the privilege of being on your show today. I adore you. I think you're an incredible wealth of knowledge. I love who you are, how you show up for people in their lives. And to bring us to a close, I want to ask your audience for a favor before I tell them where they can find me. And that favor is, could you please rate and review your podcast? And I say that because, people are listening to incredible value that you bring every single week. And the easiest thing for them to do right now is to smash 5 stars. It's the easiest point of entry of saying thank you for everything that you do, and then to rate and review. What most people don't know is that when you listen to a podcast, if you rate and review it, it changes the algorithm and more people can find it. And so a rate and review is such a powerful gift that you can give anybody. So please go ahead and rate and review this incredible show so that we can get it out to more and more and more people. For anybody who's looking to find me, you can get me at rudiriekstins.com, and that is RUDIRIEKSTINS.com. And I'm at Rudi Riekstins on Instagram or on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing that about the review. I truly appreciate that. I know that people will want to follow you. And if you're listening to this today and it's made an impact on you and you believe it could make an impact on somebody else, please share it with them. And really, thank you. You've made such an impact on my life. I believe you've made it on the audience today. So I appreciate you and thank you for being on.